Nobbel interview. Steve Dinosaur. From Shadowland to Dragonflight. Dude, the intro tin. Dun 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 dun. Dun, dun, dun. This is literally how I send Maud. I'm like, yo, Maud, do you know this song? It goes like dun dun dun. And he fucking finds it.
Hello everyone. Today we're doing something rather special. I got to sit down with none other than Steve Danuser, narrative director for World of Warcraft. We're getting closer to the release of Dragonflight, and while I would love for them to spoil the entire story before it's even told, I figured that it might be wiser to ask some other questions, like how do they view the way that the story is being told in the game, how do they look back at adding the jailer at the tail end of it, or where did the centaur come from? All of that and more in this video. Timestamps will be in the description. Of course, thank you so much to Steve for sitting down with me and everyone else that made this happen. With that, sit back, relax.
No, people would
enjoy.
do MSQ
Steve,
regardless.
thank you very much for giving me the time of day to actually do this interview. Hello there.
Oh, this is awesome. I'm very happy to talk to you.
It's been a long time coming, I think. Before I dive into the question, because I got 30 minutes and I could honestly talk to you with about lore for 5 hours. My understanding is that you are the lead narrative designer at World of Warcraft. Could you very quickly tell us what it's all about?
Yeah, actually, I'm the narrative director now of World of Warcraft, and yeah, so I oversee the high-level story, our planning, our plot lines as they unfold. I work with a group of creatives to kind of flesh out what our expansion plans are, and kind of pitch storylines and the characters that'll be involved, and those kinds of things, and then take those ideas and talk about them with the team and energize them and get them excited about where our storylines are going and for all the content that they're going to build. Yeah, that's really the main areas I oversee. We have a narrative team that we've built up over the years, and they work closely with our quest designers and our content team and other people who are making the World of Warcraft content to ensure that story is woven through everything that we do, and it's really a joy to work in this great universe that so many people like yourself care so deeply about.
Okay.
Very deeply, as you most likely also read on the internet. And now our adventures are going to go into the
one input, yo, Miso. They're not gonna put rating mining herb because people already do that for their coins. You know what I mean?
Flight into the Dragon Isles. Now, obviously, I would love to ask you questions and like reveal the story that is to come, but I think that would be unfair. Let the story unfold itself. So I would rather talk about the design philosophy and where we come from as we go into the new expansion. So first of all, my question is, I've had a few friends of mine come back into the story, and a lot of people on stream ask as well. They would love to experience the story of Warcraft within World of Warcraft itself. And over the years, that's become rather difficult. With patch content removed, the Cataclysm revamp. In Shadowlands, for example, with the Covenants now being unlocked, all the chapters are thrown at you in one go. How does the team view this problem of narrative storytelling, and are there any plans in the works to fix this, to make this better experience?
Well, you're right that there is a ton of content that has been added to World of Warcraft over the years. And, we do spend a lot of time thinking and talking about the best ways to curate that and to make it accessible. And when we introduced Chromie Time, that was one of the ways that we tried to, let's present these expansions as kind of storylines that you can delve into.
That's so cool. I did not know this was a thing.
To experience as what it feels like to level up through those and play your characters through those. And there was a lot of successes there and things we want to keep refining and want to think about. And, there's times where we have taken content out of the game, but that's never our preference. We usually try to find a way to make it still persist. Obviously, back in the day of Cataclysm, I wasn't around.
Did you not know? Why would I revisit when I already played the expansion? I didn't skip a single expansion in my live chat.
So I'm not sure all the decisions.
Oh, you guys can't see Dinosaur, Mr. Streamer? Okay, sorry.
that went into that, but you know, that was probably the biggest change to the existing world. And but these days what we try to do is make that content accessible, and we, you know, we would love to hear from the community about your ideas about how to better surface that, how to make it clearer where these pieces of content are. Another addition we made to the game was like our campaign interface, which didn't exist in the older expansions, but that's been a great way to help people at least have insight into kind of the thread that they're on and the campaign that they're playing through at a time. But we talk about ways to, you know, better surface that. So it's an ongoing process, and we don't feel like we're there yet, but want to keep working at it. And we have a great UI team that really wants to help us present our content in the best way possible. So those are discussions we continue to have with them.
And imagine feedback would be on the forums or on Twitter. But then one of the things people run into is, for example, in order to experience the storyline, an example would be Sylvanas' motivation when it comes to work with the jailer. They have to go to third parties, like books, or that the books themselves are being told from a perspective now. So it's not even actual clear information. It's rather an opinion or a character that tells the storyline. What is the design plan going forward in Dragonflight? Can we expect the story to be in books again, or what is the design behind that?
Well, what, you know, again, I can't speak.
I think playing the game and then going to buy a book to fill in the empty hole of the story is kind of wrong. Either they just make it like FF, where, you know, when they give you a quest, you could just read that whole paragraph thing. Leave it in there. Or make it simplified and short and fun, I guess. It doesn't have to be long. It's kind of like Edge Runner. Okay, it's not the best example, but fuck me, dude. Ah, what's wrong with this mic? Oh, it's not the mic. It's the box. It's the box. It's been doing this all day. Anyways, God, I lost my thoughts. Edge Runner, where the story is short but super good and strong, right? But then there's shows that go on forever, and there's so much like dead time in between. It doesn't have to be like relatively long to make a good story. It could be short and spicy, you know what I mean? So they could just do like short, spicy stories that add up in the end, right? You're talking about pet battling? No, I was about to talk about how I love mod. Okay, let's go.
Speak to the decisions that were made in the past, but the way that I look at it for when we have our novels is that we want to tell stories that best fit the medium that they are, that the strengths of the medium. So the game is about gameplay, and it's about playing a game, and certainly we have lots of cinematics and we have lots of dialogue and things like that, but we want our storyline to come through the action, through the world itself, through the places you go, the things you see happening, and that your character is able to engage with, and then punctuate those gameplay experiences with highly, you know, action moments that our cinematics can do really well, or emotional moments that as you've
I will say the ending of the cinematics, it got better and better. Their lip syncing was a lot better too, especially the one where you unlock the new undead blood elf and night elf thing. I like them. They're doing better job at the cinematic 100%. Episode 1200. Honestly, never request. Yeah, I mean their whole talk was about if we have to buy books to understand the story, or we can just understand through the game. They should make it where we understand through the game, not so we have to go buy the book. I think the book should be maybe tiny more detailed, but the same story of what we're doing for the people that just wants to read the books.
Seen our amazing cinematics team keeps leveling up their skills at being able to convey those emotions. I think that books and print, whether it's comics or novels, I think those are really good at getting inside the mind of characters. And so when it comes to something like showing a perspective of someone, that's a strength of print media. as opposed to in the game where it's much harder to see those insights unless they're kind of monologuing or kind of telling you very exposition heavy kind of, you know, where you're just sitting and listening. And some people like that, but we like the game to be much more visceral in terms of you're playing through something. So
the game is more focused on the gameplay, whereas the books are to add to it. So if you take, for example, the Shadowlands as an example, like Sylvanas' motivation with the jailer, the whole Lirav connection, for example, is not portrayed in the game until after the fact. Like we got Lirav added to the Ghostlands, I believe, like after thing, but it's not exactly clearly explained in game. If we look at the balance that the Shadowlands had when it comes to storytelling, or for example, the Cataclysm where Cairn died in a book, how does that balance going forward work?
Yeah, well, I don't want to use the books to have major events happen within them that you won't see in game. So like your example of Karen dying in the book, or some of the stuff.
Yo, Party! Thank you for the 90,000 viewer host. Hope you had a great stream. Welcome, Party Waffles. We're just watching a Nobbel interview. Steve Danuser, the main story person. Yeah, thank you. Hope you had a great stream, buddy. All right, let us continue, shall we?
With the trial of Garrosh and how it transitioned into Warlords of Draenor. Like, I would prefer that the books do more to kind of reveal extra information about things.
Sup, dude, hope all is well.
All is well, my friend. Roar, thank you for the 3 months. Appreciate it. I will say, though, in terms of questing, FF storytelling is better, but engagement-wise, I like WoW better. Because WoW, I get some quests, and I get to go kill and practice my rotation, etc. FF, I felt like I was reading for maybe 40 minutes, and then I have like 1 minute action, and I'm back to like 40-minute reading. So I never really got to do my rotation too well. I mean, we do like one dungeon, but that's not too long, right? Where in WoW, you're just fighting constantly and you're just interacting with the world. Whereas in a FF, I feel like you're kind of led to that place. You don't get to like explore a whole lot. You could, but I feel like WoW has a little bit more freedom. So better story, FF, more freedom. I think WoW for sure.
That are happening in the world. And so in that regard, like the Sylvanas novel was really great, and that we got to see both history that we can't really portray in the game in any sort of, in that same depth and meaning. And we also got to see some of her insights as she was going through things in the Shadowlands. Now, I will say that we could have done a stronger job of showing some of those motivations in game, and we could have done more with that as well. And that's a lesson that we learn going forward in terms of our storytelling and how we get those important character moments across. So it's always a learning process for us. I don't think that we, hopefully we try not to repeat ourselves, and that we're always trying to improve our craft. And that was part of the process too, of thinking about Dragonflight and what kind of books we want associated with this expansion. And we didn't do a novel that we had set between the two expansions that had a lot of backstory or had a lot of things that you kind of needed to know going into the expansion. We are doing a short story that will be coming out in the near term, but cool. But that was more about giving a specific moment in time that is more flavorful, and it doesn't, whether you read it or not, doesn't really impact your enjoyment of.
And the short story
to go into Dragonflight
will be available on the WoW website as well, I'd imagine. The short story, beautiful.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna be honest, chat. After we watched the 3-hour video, I don't think Shadowland is terrible as some people state. I don't think it's like super bad. What do you guys think, chat? I know WoW gets a lot of hate. I feel like people hate the story because they hate Blizzard and hate the Covenant. There was definitely a lot of retconning. I don't think it was terrible. Hot take? I know it is a hot take. I just watched the 3-hour of it, right? I didn't like. Don't get me wrong. I had a big argument with Chad. I didn't like the retconning. I didn't like how Sylvanas was like, oh, I have half a life there, and I just got my soul back. So now I get to see that I was in the wrong. Like, I didn't like that part at all. But I think the story intro was very powerful. Along the line, they got lost in the sauce for sure. But overall, I don't think it was like horrible as a lot of people say. Because when I play different MMOs, people are shit on while hard, right? Yeah, after I watched the whole SL thing, I don't think it was like terrible, man. I don't think it was terrible. Don't get distracted by One Piece is real. After we watched the Shadowlands story, we talked about competitive. No, it's you and Maud. I mean, you and Maud. It's me, so and Maud. You guys fucking love that battle, man. Jesus Christ. All right, let's just rewatch the whole thing. Daddy Denatria Sylvanas. The story could have been better for sure. Yeah, the story could have been better for sure. I have a lot to say about that, but I don't think it was terrible. I don't think it was terrible, man. Meaningful choices, content, energy. I think they should have let us change covenants right off the bat after people complained about it. And maybe less people would have been upset. I think towards the end, they did make it a lot easier for everything. But they should have done that at the start, right? If they did that at the start, I think Shadowland would have had a better reputation. Bro Lensky, thank you for the Prime Gaming. I appreciate it, man. If you interview the guy, can you ask about pet battle rating? The ranked pet battle is real. Okay, I'm not asking. I'm not
Always
rating
great to
Misa
hear.
and Mob.
About lessons learned for the Shadowlands, we saw a major impacts that are going to ripple on in the future of the storytelling. And when we're talking about Shadowlands, we have to talk about the Jailer. They've been retroactively added basically at the tail end of the story of Warcraft, as in the Jailer pretty much made the story of Warcraft happen up to the point of the Shadowlands, if I understood it right. Looking back at that decision and looking back at the reception of the Jailer and how that all played out, how does the team look at that?
Well, you know, I wouldn't put it that you know, certainly the Jailer and the influence of death is probably the larger influence that is seeded through Warcraft's history. And you know, I think you can still play through that content or, you know, read those experiences and just take them for what they are if you want. You can play Warcraft 3 still today. You can play through, you know, our Wrath of the Lich King expansion now in Classic. And you can take those stories as you want. But with Shadowlands, what we were trying to show was
just watch YouTube video. I think that's the best shortcut. YouTube video, gentlemen.
That death with a capital D is this
Nobbel's
kind of
throwing
cosmic
some punches
influence that has touched Azeroth in ways that were different, but yet similar to how forces like Order have touched Azeroth, or how the Void has touched Azeroth and affected its history. So what that really was about doing was showing that that death is a force that wants things, that all these cosmic forces are driven to become kind of the dominant force in the universe. And the Jailer and what he was trying to do by reaching Zereth Mortis and going into the Sepulchre, that was about him trying to make death the dominant force in the cosmos. And while we thwarted him there, the implications of that story.
Wait, the Jailer had hair here. Oh shit, yo. You know how the Jailer died and turned into a puppet, chat? That was just a puppet. The real one's right there with the hair, of course.
Affect how we look at these cosmic powers and their role in the universe. And so I think in that regard, it gave us
play along with me, man. Come on.
A lot of fuel for future storylines, and
we literally looked at the concept design earlier, chat. Come on,
and hopefully make fans, you know, give them some interesting things to think about and chew on.
Because there was mention
I
in
like
game, I believe in the new dungeon released today, with the books of the first ones, that there are more Zeros out there. So not just for the domain of death, but also all the other cosmic domains. But you mentioned that you could still experience the story of Warcraft and the Lich King and everything that's built upon without the touch of the jailer. But at the end of the day, it was the jailer and in combination with the Nefrius and the influence of the Dreadlords that caused all these events to happen pretty much since the dawn of Azeroth. If we take a look at all the events that happened that led into stopping the jailer, one could argue like, okay, we had a storyline where a force like Kill Jaden or the Burning Legion had threat and responsibility, but actually it was the jailer, or the Titans did something, but actually it was the jailer. Isn't that a major change retroactively to a storyline that was already established?
Well, the jailer and
Damn, Nobbel's asking some questions.
his allies, because it wasn't just him. He was locked away in the maw, but he had allies who were helping him, and people like Denathrius had agents of their own. So it doesn't change the things that the Legion did. It doesn't change the things that Kil'jaeden put in motion. It just shows that there were other forces who were nudging some of those things along. But we didn't change any of the history of the events of Warcraft 3 or Wrath of the Lich King. Those things happen.
He's giving
just as
Danuser
they
a hard
play out
time.
in those games. We didn't touch any of that stuff. We just wove in some additional motivation and some machinations kind of behind the scenes. The books that you can now find in the Uldaman revamped dungeon add some additional texture and thought, but again, none of that is saying that the jailer or the forces of death manipulated the Titans. That's still a separate storyline. It was really that there was some manipulation of the Legion and what they were trying to do in order to get the influence of death rooted in Azeroth. That was really what was going on there, because again, the jailer needed that energy of Azeroth to be drawn into Zereth Mortis to do what he wanted to do, which was reshape the cosmos in his own image.
Okay. Speaking of Woven and Zereth Mortis and everything, especially the books as well that we're going to see, there's again the mention of the first ones. And if I understood the storyline with the first ones correctly, once upon a time we had the Titans that brought order to the universe, and the first ones are established as a mysterious force that brought order to the cosmic domains, if I understood it right. But it also meant that there was a woven fate, a true Mawwalker, gateways opening to us, prophesized. A lot of it seemed to be like there was already a path destined for us. Now with the defeat of the jailer and Shadowlands come to a close, are we still walking the path predestined by the first ones, going into Dragonflight, or is that completely closed off now?
So it wasn't that the first ones laid out an exact path that mortals were walking. I think what the first ones did, because they are these beings that kind of sit above the cosmic forces that we've known so far, like the Titans and the Void Lords. The first ones predate them. And what they did was prepare for eventualities, is the way that I would put it. So if you think about how like the Titans represent belief in one path, one structure, and the void represents all things being possible, you could imagine that the first ones, who sit kind of above them on that cosmic scale, have elements of both of those things. So and those are different perspectives, but yet there can be ways that those outlooks can work together. So the things with that the first ones kind of left behind for us in the Shadowlands, it was not that they are going to follow this one path. It was that these are things that someday, if the flow of the universe plays out in ways that they could foresee, that these mortals who would become increasingly important for the fate of the cosmos, that they would have some of these tools available to them. So it wasn't predetermined, but they put some things out there into the universe that might be of use for us.
But the keepers in Zereth Mortis and those that we come across in the mall, they literally read our anima and they say, oh, the prophecies have fulfilled, the predestined Mawwalkers, as well as the locations are extremely precise. Like there's one in the mall that we needed, the one in the Corvia that we needed, and one in Zereth Mortis. And Zereth Mortis is a domain where nobody...
What is he doing? Savix, the first ones are when we sit on the toilet and push out the crap into the toilet bowl. Then the water awaiting the tard is what the first one designed. And what happened to the turret after it leaves the toilet is the mortal races in Dragonflight. Bro, what? He never worked for Blizzard ever again. Dude, they should just get Nobbel to patch the stories together. They should ask for some help over there. That's so deep that I have no idea. Let's enjoy this
Nobody was actually supposed to
content.
go. But it's specifically spot where we were predestined to go to that the keeper say like, oh, Maulwalker of Fate, you've come here. Similar to how the jailer was not just stabbing in the dark in order to get his plans going. He could predict at the end of Wrath of the Lich King that Sargeras was not going to destroy Azeroth. He was not going to miss Azeroth. He was going to precisely stab him in such a way that the blood of Azeroth was going to fulfill his plan. So while the idea of the first ones are predestined, it seems like the storyline supports a more accurate path as we know what's going to go.
Well, I think that
Oh shit! Really? I just saw this. Then go, Jailer said, when you have made your choice, send a Valkyrie to me, and if yes, wash with the child of blood with your new insight in justice fairness. And it says, a blade will pierce the heart of the world. You shall hold the blood from the wound and sense the power and fondly. Wait, did the Jailer was... This was the Jailer plan?
More accurate path as we know
Oh shit!
what's going to go.
Well, I think that, you know, the thing you need to keep in mind is perspective and belief.
Read this guy's
as
mod
well.
comment.
So like the denizens that the attendants, for example, that we met in Oribos or in Korthia, or some of the enlightened brokers that we met in Zereth Mortis, you know, these were people who believed in something. They were sort of, they had these things.
What is wrong with this mic?
You know, whether you think of them as prophecies or doctrines that they believed in, they've been kind of waiting a very long time for some of these things to come to pass. And when somebody believes in a prophecy or a doctrine like that, they look for ways to make it true. When someone shows up that does something that falls in line, we see that in the real world all the time. Of like, people want a pattern to be true, or they want a theory to be true, and when they see things that they can put into that pattern to make it seem true, it feels like a prophecy fulfilled. And so whether that's exactly true or whether it's just a point of view of these characters is something that you can think about and debate. But in no way has the fate of the mortals of Azeroth been pre-written, and they're just kind of walking through a script. The thing that separates mortals from magical beings is free will. That's something that's unique to the mortal soul. That's what makes it distinct. Even when you were in the Shadowlands, there was a difference between souls that had come over and the things that they did versus beings that were of magic, of death magic in that case. And so while magical beings are kind of driven by the influence that they are a part of to promote that influence, to propagate that influence, to try to make that influence.
I'm pretty sure he wrote the question and sent them over, and he acknowledged it, and then he's answering them, because that's how most interviews go, right?
Influence the most dominant force in the cosmos. It's
I'm sure
mortals
he had time
who
to
have
think
the
about
free
it.
will to decide what their destiny is, what their fate is, which way they're going to do, which powers they're going to embrace. That's why as players, we can embrace all these different sorts of powers and use them kind of at our will. It's because mortals have that choice, and that's unique among the beings who are rooted in magic.
I love that you say like free will is very important for character design. And you mentioned earlier like that they had this belief and that they made their own prophecies, like kind of they want it to happen. But at the same time, there's like proof it's in the pudding. Like they tell us like, if you are the true Maulwalker, this gateway as prophesied will open up for you, and wouldn't you know it, it actually opens up for us. So it does seem like the game supports the idea of predestined, but that is a debate. Oh, I would love to talk to you for 5 hours. You have no idea. But we only have 30 minutes today. Going for Dragonflight, real quick to the first ones.
He said 30 minutes. He increased it to 40 minutes.
Will we see much more influence of them?
I don't care whether to write off anything this guy says or feel bad about him. The story is constrained by deadlines for sure, and it kind of seems like he has disproved stuff and the team set up a different story. For sure, there are stuff like that, for sure. And he's not able to talk about it. It's kind of like when I made a video for Tower Fantasy. Dude, they made me change so much shit because I wasn't fitting standard to what they want. But I had another story in my mind, right? But they wanted me to change that shit. I was so pissed. I was messaging Maud about it. I was molding so hard. Anyways, yeah, he definitely has like criteria where he needs to hit, and maybe the story changes because of how the game goes, and how they need to make like bad guys from new raids, etc. So definitely, it's not all on him.
The first ones.
Yeah.
You know, Dragonflight is really rooted back in terrestrial Azeroth and dealing with the stories of the dragons, their connection to the Titans. That's a big storyline. So no, this isn't.
What?
This isn't.
Sorry, this is a weird question. Savix and Chan, my good friend Nobbel is still upset that Blizzard has not explained Dragon 6 in order to explain Center of the Being of Dragon Isle. Kaiser wrote weird ass. I love.
An expansion that's rooted in the cosmic powers or
It's a
you know,
mod
the
comment.
stories of the first ones. Really, it is really focused on the aspects, the kind of legacy that they have, that connection to
2
the
years ago,
Titans.
still haven't changed.
Emerald Dream. Oh, Emerald
Yeah,
Dream. Life
the
domain.
Emerald Dream, all of that stuff. So we really wanted to root the story in this. You know, those cosmic themes are out there, and they'll certainly inform future plot lines and things like that. But Dragonflight is really about what's going on in Azeroth with the aspects.
Awesome. Like honestly, I hope I don't come across as too rough or too cross, because it's all out of a passion for the world of Warcraft and a storyline that we all love.
I
And
totally understand.
very excited about Dragonflight as well. Like so far, what we've seen, going back to the ground, I think not just the game mechanics, but also storyline build up is great. I think we've got like a couple more minutes left, so I got a lightning round on questions that I'm very curious about.
Okay.
Azeroth has been said to be cleansed of the old gods. Nuzaf, Kafun, Yaxaran, Yasharaj, all gone. Is that true?
The influence of the void as embodied by the old gods has not gone away. While we've defeated some of the old gods themselves, we did beat them on the mortal plane after all, and they are not beings of the mortal plane. And if you can extrapolate some of the kind of cosmic rules of what that means, then that kind of gives you your own answer, or at least some things to think about.
You know, I wanted to I wanted to follow it up, but I love it. I'm just gonna leave it at that. Okay, so we've seen the time skip in game, and just today on the PTR we got like the wedding of Lorthmar Philistra. Some time has passed on Azeroth, just to give it a chill moment. Now we've also seen at the Forsaken that they have unlocked the power to cleanse the Blight from Lordaeron. What about Gilneas? Will we ever see the return of Gilneas for the Worgen? Is that perhaps something in the works?
Oh.
That is a storyline that we have not forgotten about.
He fucking forgot about it, dude. He fucking forgot about it.
Okay.
He's laughing too.
The Centaur on the Dragon Isles.
Okay.
In the Collector's Edition, it clarifies that the Centaur that the ones we know are merely a copy of the ones that came before the ones on the Dragon Isles. So where exactly did the ones on the Dragon Isles come from?
Well, I wouldn't call it a copy per se, but what I would say is that Centaur are a native race to Azeroth. They've been around for a long time, and so they date back to.
Do you know how centaurs are made, chat? You see, there's these centaur that lives in Desolace, right? And there's this rock mommy milkers, massive thick rock geodude looking milkers, and this dryad got very horny and he started banging the shit out of this rock, and it gave birth to the centaurs. That's the whole story. I'm not even making this shit up. This dryad got thirsty, he was banging it so hard, and he's like, oh shit, dude, I've made a mistake, but too late. Anyway, that's the whole story of the centaurs.
To the time when there was the supercontinent of Kalimdor.
Stop it, Savix.
And so
wait, you guys think I'm making this up? Oh, wow, princess. Chat, this is the thing that the centaur, the guy was very horny. It was like his month or something, and he got busy. They got busy. It's the truth.
The Maruk Centaur that we see in Dragon Isles.
It's the truth.
The centaurs were very contentious, just like the ones that we know today. And the Maruk broke off because they were a bit more enlightened. They wanted to get away from the conflict, and that took them to the lands that would be the Dragon Isles. And really, the centaur that had existed in the rest of Kalimdor just fought one another to extinction. And so you didn't see the centaurs that were kind of more located in central Kalimdor died off, and it was just the Maruk that we know of that persisted. But that doesn't change the mythology that we know of the centaurs. And the Kalimdor centaurs of modern Warcraft, they were kind of reintroduced to the world through those magical means. And so the centaurs we know today are kind of their own reintroduction, I guess you would say. But the roots of centaurs date back to the early history of Azeroth itself.
Okay, so the original centaur, they were always just there, because we were kind of wondering, like, so we have Fedadras and Zatar, son of Cenarius, they got together and they made the centaur that we've always known.
That's exactly what I'm saying right here, chat.
And now we got these original ones. So the whole idea of Cenarius together with Fedazane is not a thing. They were just native creatures of the land.
Well, again, like we're not changing that storyline at all, but that was a reintroduction of new tribes of centaurs to the world. The older ones, apart from the Maruk, as far as we know, had died off.
Okay, and they were just there, similar to like the Tauren, how they were always there.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, the mortal races, they've evolved over time as well.
What do you mean, Mal? I know more story than this.
From that kind of primordial age when mortals first started to emerge.
Where's the eye checker? Bro.
This one, I'm already ready for a shutdown. There's been some data mine stuff when it comes to the Green Dragon Ysera. In the Collector's Edition, we also see a beautiful symbol of Ysera and Raffion, but not her daughter Marifra. But Ysera has been bound in the Shadowlands to Ardenweald. What does that mean for her future in Dragonflight?
But she can pay a big price to go to the real life, right? We learned that today, actually.
Well, that is a big storyline that plays out through the course of Dragonflight. And yeah, I don't think it's a secret at this point to say that Ysera is certainly involved in the storyline, but her role needs to change because she was awakened in Ardenweald through the Winter Queen's direct intervention. And that means that she didn't get reborn through the normal cycle of slumbering at Ardenweald, then emerging into the dream. And if she had done that, then maybe she could have returned to Azeroth as she was. But now she is bound to that power. And so she is bound to both life and to death. And that's going to have implications on her storyline. And Marithra is very much a part of that story as well.
Beautiful. Yeah, if Elune wills it, she will soar through the skies again. Okay. Dragons and the domain of order are going to play their part in the storyline, as we've already seen from the whole Primalist section coming up. Could you hint at other primal forces that we might see play a part in the expansion? Some of the cosmic force, I should say. Sorry.
Again, we're not really delving into the cosmic forces as these kind of disembodied things. There's certainly Titan stuff that plays out in this expansion because the history of dragons and Titans are so tied together. And in fact, when the expansion starts, Alexstrasza is looking for a way to re-empower the aspects because they've got this enemy that they need to face, and they were only able to defeat before when they were at their full strength, and they're much diminished now compared to what they once were. And her first instinct is to, well, Tyr isn't around anymore, so how could we re-empower ourselves? And in the Dragon Isles are these oath stones that were the symbol of the Titans' bond with the dragons. And she thinks that if they can set the flights right, that will re-empower these oath stones, and maybe that magic can restore the aspect. So that's guiding us through the level up experience of Dragonflight, and you'll see those oath stones through the course of the story. And whether that works or not, whether she has to try something else, that remains to be seen. But that relationship between the dragons and the Titans, both in their history and the implications of that, are very much part and parcel of this storyline.
Awesome. Yeah, it's one of the more interesting ones. The feedback I've seen so far, like it's reminiscent of the Kyrian storyline with the Maasworn, where you see that there's this story established, and yet there's more to it. Now, when it comes to Kyrian and Maasworn, we saw that, for example, Devils was quickly taken off the stage, and we were quickly allying to just the Kyrian.
Bonk.
PPC Daddy Savix.
PPC bonk Cheeto. Appreciate it.
It's their way, even though at the end of the fact, it was shown that the Maasworn actually had a valid point. Do you feel similar to the Dragonflight storyline as it's building up so far? For those worried that we might have a repeat of history, do you have anything to say to them?
In terms of repeating which part of history?
Just signing up with the Kyrians, like just, for example, just signing up with the Titans, they're the good guys, and their other point of view is swept to the side, and we're just gonna wipe them out.
Yeah, well, I think that some of our best villains, both in Warcraft and in other media, start with having understandable motivations. And when you look at the Incarnates, the first one of which is Razageth that we see unleashed, and you think about what the Primalists were being driven by, they have a valid point. Their entire philosophy was just rooted in this idea that dragons should not be touched by outside influences. They should be free to be their own beings and not be changed by the magic of the Titans, for example. And that was a disagreement at first, and disagreements led to conflict, and conflict led to war. And what makes someone a villain is not necessarily the ideology they have all the time. Sometimes it can be the actions that they will take in service of that ideology. So with the Incarnates, even though they started in an understandable place, they've done some very nasty things throughout history. And we will learn more about that as the story unfolds. And we will see that they started out with, again, those relatable intentions, but ended up in a place that the aspects really had to fight against them for the sake of preserving not only their own kingdom, but Azeroth as a whole.
Beautiful. Like, honestly, the things that you're saying right now, it's making me more and more excited about the story of Dragonflight, honestly, with that mindset. I think we're just about out of time. My last question to you is, if you had to pick one thing to be most excited about for the story of Dragonflight, without spoilers, what would it be?
It honestly is just adventuring alongside the aspects and seeing them be awesome again. They've, after giving up their powers to defeat Deathwing, they had a downturn, and they've been kind of adrift a bit in terms of what their future was, what they were doing, and this whole expansion is really about making these characters awesome again, and to soar alongside them, like you saw in our cinematic. There's that feeling of being in their presence and seeing them do these awesome things and helping them, find not only the greatness that they once had, but like what is their future. That's just an awesome, fun story to tell, and I'm super excited. Our whole team really embraced that and was excited about all these characters, and I think that love.
Dude, I want to play a game with this graphic. Holy
care will come through as you're playing through the expansion.
Wow, it's
beautiful.
you, baby.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, I hope everybody at home is as hyped as I am, and thank you very much for your time for answering all of our questions.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a lot of fun. Let's talk again.
Yes, please. All right. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.
And there you have it, the end of the interview. Again, thank you so very much to Steve and everybody else at Blizzard for making this happen, for sitting down with me and letting me do this interview. I had a blast. I think I mentioned it mid-interview. I could sit down with them for 6 hours and deep dive into the story that they're being told, that they're doing, feedback on and all that. All in all, my major takeaway from this is that they're telling me everything right. They're telling me that there's going to be an adventure in Dragonflight, that we're going to go back to basics, that instead of dealing with fractures and cosmic forces, like the cosmic forces will play their part, but they're not going to take front and center. That has me excited. And I mentioned this during the reactionary trailer for the pre-patch. When they drop a trailer or cinematic and my reaction to it is pretty much one-on-one with how they wanted to convey it, that means they got a mindset when it comes to the storytelling. Obviously, interviews, I'm hoping that the mindset is actually going to become a reality. I'm hoping that we're going to see that delivered within Dragonflight. I'm excited for the launch. I'm excited for the coming month. And beyond that, only time is going to tell. For now, thank you very much for watching, everyone. Subscribe if you like my videos. Leave a like if you enjoyed this one. And until next time, see ya.
Bye bye. Well, that was a great video. I'll subscribe to support the boy, man. I'm excited to see what the story has. A lot of people are saying it's gonna be way better. I am on the positive side too. I think we'll see us helping the aspect regain their powers first off, and then probably build off there. I think that's what the first story will be, us getting their power back.